Hey guys, this is Pimp here. I got another little trick for you guys. I heard about this channel on YouTube that has a lot of good analysis on it. You know, a lot of good points to be made. And fuck, I did it again. It's just Thorin's stupid YouTube channel.
Valve have announced that they have set the dates in place for the majors over the next 2 years, 2020 and 2021. They sent out an email to the various tournament organisers requesting proposals for future majors over those 4 potential majors. And they set the dates so that people knew exactly what time frame they were working with. So the dates are, in 2020, there's going to be a major May 11th to 24th. There's going to be one November 2nd to 15th. And then in 2021, there's going to be a major May 10th to 23rd and November 1st to 14th. So similar kind of time frame. These majors, as you may be able to tell based on the time span quoted, are now only going to be 2-week majors. Crucial because obviously the last few majors were actually 3 weeks long. And as a result, tournament organisers will need to double stream games in the Swiss system, assuming that's the format that we use. And events should last 4 days for Swiss system each week, as opposed to 5. Also, interesting consideration, they've asked tournament organisers to actually prioritise the global audience, the millions who watch online, not just the people in the stadium. And that means they should generally aim for time zones which work for that global audience. And they highlighted a prime time of 9 p.m. Central European time. So Europe is basically the center point of the Counter-Strike world in this sense, and we should aim to cater to the European audience, which then will have spillover to the other regions which have some overlap. So in terms of announcing the dates, this is great. This is a really good move. I think it's one of the best things Valve has done in quite a long time. I think it has massive potential for what the rest of the industry can now do, because this has more of an impact than just on Valve and Valve's majors. Like, first of all, remember in CSGO, it's not like the International in Dota or Worlds and MSI in League, where the developer not only has those as their premier event, but they actually run the event themselves. No, third-party tournament organisers run the Valve majors in CSGO anyway, so it helps that they have an idea of when the majors are going to be, and they know what they're actually bidding for and what the proposals are, and the proposals aren't all for different time periods in different cities. Like, that never made any sense to me. The idea I'm bidding for a major that will take place in May, and he's bidding for a major that will be in June, and then he decide between us. That makes a lot more sense to say, here's when the major should be. Now, what do you want to bid for that? And give us years in advance so there's time for people to plan, because this is a lot of progress for our industry, actually. Like, first of all, for players, it helps them set in place player breaks, whether they want to break before the major or after the major. It lets tournament organisers generally set in place their whole calendar, because now you know 2 years out where the majors are going to be. So you can now position your events. You can now figure out which event you want to pitch as a potential major. You now aren't caught in the scenario where you pitched an event like a major, but then you didn't get the accepted offer, but you still had already booked out the venue, so now you're shit creek and you're going to do an event that's going to cost a lot more. There's a lot of issues that potentially are fixed here by doing this that I'm very, very glad for. I thought it was really sad, actually, when events like Cologne in 2017 clearly were booked out as though they could be a major, and they didn't get the major. And even worse, the major actually was like a week or two after that event. That's a ball breaker if you're an ESL. How are you supposed to do business in a field like that where you're not making that much money anyway from these big live events? So if you want the spectacle of a huge live event, you've got to give people some time to work with and help them out, as Valve indeed has done here. Now, it is worth pointing out that if a company like ESL sticks to having their ESL and IEM events at the same rough time period as they have in certain locations, Sydney, Cologne, New York, now Chicago or Auckland in the past, if they're going to have these events roughly around the same time, I know they're switching up when Chicago is this year, then some of these events will not be majors. We can actually guess that already. So if the majors, the first major each year is always held in May, seemingly that throws Katowice out the window, right? No IEM/ESL Katowice, because that has always been held in February or March every single year. So would that mean that there's no more Katowice? Seems plausible, actually. Would they want to run it in May? I don't know. I mean, certainly Katowice, I mean, there's been stats online that like they bring like some mad amount of the tourism to that area. But at the same time, can they give you the stadium for whatever the deal is? Probably for free during that time period. I don't know. Do they help you with some of the costs? Yeah, there's a lot to go with there. They can obviously shift around if they want to, but maybe that means that Katowice just becomes a normal event again. Likewise, Sydney basically would be just before the major in these 2 years, because it's always in early May, end of April, right? So as a result, that would presumably mean there is no more IEM Sydney, because either Sydney needs to be the major, which wouldn't work for the time zones, you'll note. That'd be very, very difficult to make it work a local time Sydney, but have the 9 p.m. Central European time prime time window in view, because normally your days are going to be done by that point in time in Europe. Also, there's the factor that if you try to hold the event and it's not the major, well, it's going to overlap with all the qualifiers and the first week of the major. So there's too many factors here that mean that it probably has to be moved as an event to a different time period. So, okay, that's a negative for Sydney. It's not necessarily a negative for the calendar overall. And then also, the last one that people might not have thought about is Cologne, because Cologne's always been held around July. It's always in the summer. But remember, it's either May or it's November. So you'd have to drastically change it. And the whole point of having it in Cologne in that time period, I would guess, is because that's when the weather's nice. That's when people might want to visit Cologne. If you're holding it in May, that might be doable. November is going to be way colder than people are used to if they've been in Cologne in the past. Also, that's more in line with maybe having an event like ESL New York be the major, which I personally have hoped for many years. It's a great venue, the Barclays Center, great location. In terms of New York, people being able to get there. I think it's such a cool spot that enough people would come for a big major in North America. But anyway, this is all spitballing. Now, it does mean, we've had this before, that we already know now the break between the next major, the Star Ladder major, which is in September in Berlin, and the major that will be the first of 2020, which is the first, 2019 rather. 2020, yeah. The first one of 2020 will be in May, and the major this year will be in September. So obviously that's roughly an 8 months time span. Fair enough. To be fair, there was an 8 month time span roughly between E-League, Boston, and the Faceit major last year, so not the end of the world. In terms of them accepting proposals already, I think that is so great. It allows people to potentially put a retainer on a place or deposit on a building and still maybe cancel it without wrecking the whole event. But if they get the major, then go ahead with it. I actually thought that was a big problem, that you didn't give people years in advance to really build up to an epic major. The fact that you have 2 week-long majors, I'm a bit conflicted with, because on the one hand, I think you absolutely could get an amazing major done in 2 weeks. That's fine. But I actually liked this feel where it was 3 weeks long. You knew what days you had off. You knew what days were the tournament. Because it was 3 weeks long, it was getting to feel like the International or like Worlds, where it has like the festival of Counter-Strike thing. You book out your 3 weeks. Excitement builds week by week by week. The last week's really amazing. You get a chance to really savor, soak in all the Counter-Strike, all the great storylines, all the teams. You have days off between the stages where people can do journalism. I thought that was great. 2 weeks does reduce that, does make less of that. And so I am not really a big fan of that, even if you get the same games played. Obviously, they imply they'll just stream more of the games. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem for me. I kind of like that. I also am a bit concerned because it makes it less likely that you can try some experimental new format. Like, is someone really going to be able to run a fully double elim, the international style tournament, if they have this format? Probably not, right? It'd be really hard to make it work. And now you'll be double streaming games, not just from a Swiss, but from actual bracket stage, which, yes, they do at the international at times in the past. They mainly do it on the first stage, not on the actual bracket stage. But obviously, yeah, that's a concern, right? So I always wanted someone to come in and do a big double elim tourney. It doesn't seem that likely now, right? In terms of the double streaming, I'm personally fine with it. It's rare when you have Swiss system stages that I'd want to watch all the games anyway. I don't really have a problem with running 2 sets of games there. I don't want to watch 50 games that are some of them are just very, very average. I'm fine with that. That's not really that big a deal, especially because it makes it better for the tournament organizer generally, I think. I'm not sure how it affects hits. I could see a world in which it increases views because you have an option and people aren't tuning out. But there's also a world in which maybe there just being less games that have all the eyes on it means less overall hits. That's tough to know that one. You'd really need to check on the actual data, but I could see it going either way. It's less work days for the people who do the events. That's a bit of a concern. You're getting to the point now where you can make some really serious money just from doing the major in CSGO. It's going to obviously be potentially a week less worth of day rates. Okay, that's a little bit of a concern. Not the end of the world, really. As long as the tournament's great, I'm not that bothered by that, and it shouldn't be that big a concern for Valve overall. In terms of them doing the prime time aspect, I kind of like that. I think that's a great decision, actually. I think it's an underrated, probably slept on decision because it's probably the most underutilized aspect of the circuit we have, which is way too much emphasis because people saw, well, the person who buys a ticket to my event and goes to the live event, I want him to have the best experience possible. I want it to be a sporting event. That's where one day I hope to make money because at the moment people haven't monetized online very well, haven't been able to get a pay-per-view component successfully implemented in Counter-Strike. Yes, they put their emphasis where they were making their money in the short term at the live event. The problem is a few thousand people, usually less than 10,000 people at a live event, in my opinion, shouldn't take precedence over millions online. I get it that the millions online aren't really a high level being monetized, so I get that this is like not as simple a distinction, not as black and white for the tournament organizer, but I want it to be where the online experience is the ultimate one. And yes, if you could go live, it'd be even sicker, but the online one has all that you need and crucially allows as many people to watch as possible. That's what's going to make the esports side of things really blow up. So I think that's a really great aspect. Let's get the majority of the world watching for all the big games at the majors. This is like they're saying it for every event in the circuit. This is just the majors. For the majors, yes, let's get people watching. Now, sure, in the future, it doesn't look like at the moment with the publication methods Valve's chosen, if they were able to crack China ever, if they were able to get those millions that watch League of Legends and Dota, then it would obviously change matters because now maybe we'd have events in America or we'd have to shift the time schedule to fit the Chinese if they were the ones watching it. I don't know. That is part of how League of Legends gets those mega numbers though, is by actually catering to those regions. So I don't necessarily see a problem with it. And obviously at the moment it's ideal for me. I'm in Europe anyway, right? I have a few other ideas that they didn't bring in that could be knock-on effects from this and I hope are taken on board. So one is I would like, now that we know when the majors are, for even if it's not Valve, at least for other people to run some kind of season-based system. So let's make a player break be after each major, so you build up into the major. I would like map rotations where after the major is when we introduce the new map and take out the old map. So that way the major represents the end of a certain season where you're playing on this set of maps. You win or you don't win, then we swap to the next map. It's like, right, let's build up again so that by the next major comes, we're all fluent with this new map that's coming to the pool. We all know the new map pool and everyone's playing at their peak in terms of the internal meta. It's not like, oh, this map came in a few weeks ago or a month ago, or they only just took out a map that was my best map 2 months before the major. No, I would actually like that as a system. But that's obviously a side aspect. Those are corollary aspects. They're not really essential. I think they would just be cool overall. I think generally this is a great set of announcements. I generally like most of it, even though some of them I'm a little bit conflicted on the logistics. I think Valve actually is being much more transparent and is now playing more ball with the tournament organizers. This video was kindly supported by Wendelful, Butt Pounder 420, Dean Tanglis, Andreas Snazore Westerlund, JDubs, Chi Mao, Daniel Olivar, OllieJ, Tobias Bernasconi, NateDOhDoubleG, Alexander Rao, and a special thanks go out to Jerky's Minion, weixz, don't know how to say that, it's like a Chinese name, and Max Laine. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for some of my upcoming content? It's going to be a big feature in the next few months for me. Well, my Patreon, that's a feature. Do you want to ask me a question in my monthly AMA? Would you like teasers for my upcoming content? Find out who the next guests are. Maybe you want to take part in that monthly donator discussion with me. Well, if you want any of the above perks, put your money where your mouth is. Support me via the Patreon link below and join the Scrilluminati today.